Well, another AEW Dynamite is in the books, my friends, and I know this because I wake up on Twitter and I get that one guy that goes, let's see how many ups Simon gives AEW this week. Look, let me just lay it on the line. I love wrestling. I love all wrestling. I'm a man in his early 30s and I can't get enough of this stuff, which means I'm going to get to 90 years old, be on my deathbed, and I'll be like, I love wrestling. It's the best. And I don't even care. You want to come at me, you come. But now we need to go through the show and we need to give the good bits an up and we need to give the bad bits a down, and we do with this. Don't yell at me, yell at him. He's the one that makes all the decisions, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow, 2 p.m. BST, ECW One Night Stand 2005 ran away with the poll, so that's this week's retro ups and downs, and I've watched it, and my word, I don't think I'll ever be the same again. I've forgotten a lot, but for now, let's up those AEW downs. I am liking how wrestling companies have been starting their shows recently because they're different, and I am all about different. And AEW does this all the time now. It starts and it's like, well, you know what the meat and bones of this is? It's a wrestling match, so we've got all these guys in the ring and they are ready to have a wrestling match. And here, it was a 12-man tag. 12-man tag. How could that not be chaos? And how could that not be good? Give it up. It was Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, FTR and the Young Bucks taking on the Dark Order. And I'm not even going to muck around here. The Dark Order won. The Dark Order won. I don't know why I keep repeating myself today, like I think I'm Macho Man Randy Savage or something. Say everything twice. With so many dudes involved, we did keep going back and forth like a tennis match until Kenny Omega was on the outside and just got booted right in the face by Brody Lee, and that allowed the cult to take control, and they started picking the cleaner apart. They would just smash him away. Kenny started to make his way back by taking out Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, and that's when the story was introduced to the mix, and something like this was always going to need some kind of narrative, so hell yeah, because basically when Dax from the FTR was in there, he went to stomp some fool and he hurt his knee, and this was so bad, he had to be helped to the back. Now it makes sense that his tag team partner helped him, but do you know who else was assisting? It was Hangman Adam Page. Now of course this all meant the good guys were now down to just 3 people, so what the hell was he thinking? And what did Hangman Page think this was going to do to poor Kenny Omega? He was losing his flipping mind. It was so cool though, because when the Cowboy finally did make his way back to the ring, he got a hot tag from Matt Jackson, and as always, he just ran wild. Every time he's in the ring, he knows how to get the momentum back on his side, and you're just like, my word, where would this team be without Hangman Adam Page? Because if you hadn't noticed, he is always the reason that the tag team champions get victories, or when things switched around, and of course that's what you're meant to see, but Kenny Omega does not. As they now have beef too, Hangman wanted to take on Brody Lee, so he got him in the ring, and that's when the klaxon sounded, and everything just went so nuts. Uno was interfering from the outside, Grayson hit a 450, Colt Cabana smashed out the Chicago skyline and almost got the win, and then Young Bucks were there, and they just started having a super kick party. The escalation, like I say. The finish truly surprised me too, and did give Dark Order a shot in the arm, because after Hangman and Cowboy went for the last call, Brody Lee was able to duck it, he slammed Page with a discus lariat, and pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. You should have been more focused, shouldn't you, Hangman Adam Page, and not walk into the back with your new drinking buddies. This was great too, because you can argue it in around about 84,622 ways, because Brody Lee did get a clean win over a tag team champion, but also that group was down a couple of guys, because once again FTR had left. Also FTR did leave the Young Bucks, they turned their backs on them, so we're planting seeds there too. Where's my damn plant? Grow! It also told us that Brody's discus lariat is that strong and a finishing move that we should believe in. And look, I'm just swimming through it. I'm swimming through all this stuff that I can just take away. So yeah, what does happen now with Brody Lee and Hangman Page? How mad are the Bucks going to be at FTR? And also, how mad is Kenny Omega going to be? And also, has Colt Cabana drunk too much of the Dark Order Kool-Aid that now there's no going back? JR even sold all of this. The reason the Dark Order did win is because they were better organized with their great leader known as Brody Lee. And afterwards, they had to go and lay down, because so much flipping happened. The best friends then arrived at the arena in Sue's van, who you remember is Trent's mum. And I love Sue, I think she's great. As long as AEW doesn't put her on a forklift, This will be fine. Jon Moxley promo next, and he just completely understands his character and knows how to pitch this every single week, because he was talking about Darby Allin, who will go after the World Championship later, and saying, look, I see you in myself. When I was a kid, I had a bunch of demons. I didn't listen to anybody, but now you must listen to me. Please learn from my experiences, ... even though I know you won't, because I wouldn't have done it either. He's terrified that he is going to end Darby's career because he doesn't want that, which is why when he does tell him to stay down, he better stay down, even though once more he 100% knows this isn't the case. He then told us that if he is able to beat him, he will adopt Darby Allin, and I made that bit up. But this was honestly was so good, and it added so much gravitas and weight to that main event, I just stood up and applauded. Then the postman came, and I explained it to him, and he came in, and we applauded, and now we're best friends, wrestling, bringing people together. It was then the best friends taking on Santana and Ortiz, and it was okay. And you may have noticed the surprise intonation in my voice, and that's because if you had told me beforehand that these four were going to have a tag match, I would have got myself super ramped up excited, and it was good. And I did enjoy myself, but maybe my expectation level was a little bit high. However, I think we're starting a proper feud with these guys, so I guess we're just going at 10 miles an hour before we get to 75 miles an hour, so it still gets an up. Trent was on the receiving end for a lot of this after Ortiz had grabbed him from the outside, and what a butthole he is. And even after Taylor had managed to get a bit of offense in there later, as soon as Trent was back in, he was being beaten up again. I think he was really worried about his mum's car. And the finish was a little strange too, because Santana and Ortiz were about to smash out the street sweeper when Taylor pushed Santana off, and he almost fell into a pin by Trent, who essentially got the fluke win, which is how the commentators treated it too. And that was it, we were done, and on we went. It was different, so I'll give you that, and there is one big story thing coming later on which kind of lights a fire under all of it, but at this point in proceedings, I was just a little bit confused. But you gotta lay the flag somewhere, the flag has been left, and again, I'm going to talk about it in just a sec. It made things so much better. A backstage skit with MJF then aired, and he is about to explode. I don't mean literally, I mean he's about to become such a massive star because he is killing it. Again, not literally. He was in his campaign headquarters just running down all of his staff because he thinks they're a bunch of doofuses and buffoons when he was asked, are you not a little bit worried that Darby Allin may win the AEW World Championship later? And of course he's not worried about this. He would rather face Darby Allin because he doesn't think he's a threat, although you can see in his eyes that he's absolutely petrified of one Jon Moxley. If nothing else, he just wants to be champion, folks, and he wants to make All Elite Wrestling a better place. My vote is for Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And then boy howdy did we increase the intensity on the Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara feud. It was like somebody threw acid in my face. It started with Hardy coming out and doubling down on this idea that he's not going to be a gimmick anymore, and he's just going to be Matthew Hardy, and he's going to reach out to younger talent like Private Party and do whatever he can to rise them up. What a lovely man. He also tried to do this with Sammy though, but because Sammy is a giant pissant, he doesn't want his assistance, so now he's changed his mind, and who's gonna whoop his ass? Clearly terrified that somebody was gonna try and murder him again though, Guevara appeared here, and he absolutely laid waste to Hardy. I mean, he really went to town on him to the point he chucked a chair in his face and blood poured forth from Matt Hardy's head. He then put him on a table, climbed up to the top rope and sentonced him through that wood. And by the end of this, Sammy Guevara was on top of the world, and Matt Hardy was probably going, oh no, I'm in a lot of trouble. So this achieved two very important things. One, if you were out there saying, I think Sammy Guevara needs a more aggressive side, well, here it is. And two, it turned this kind of comedy feud into a proper serious one, and I am invested. It also feels like Sammy is now a killer, and there's the irony, and it also saw a company using a very well-established star trying to make somebody younger into a star. What a fascinating idea. Then, however, Santana and Ortiz, how dare you? How very dare you? Because we went back to the parking lot where the best friends had parked Sue's car, and they decided to smash it up with weapons. They broke the windows, and they even got a spray paint can, spray painted Sue on the front of the bonnet, and then put an X through it, as if they were going to try and kill Sue. Sue didn't need that either. She was aware that this was her car, doesn't need her name emblazoned on the front, and I think this is absolutely disgusting. And you, Santana, and you, Ortiz, you are going to be getting yours. You don't go and assault somebody else's car, especially when they borrowed it from their own mother. You didn't think about all the trouble that Trent's going to be in either, did you? So you know what? You are getting a down. That's right, maybe it's the first time ever. It's a kayfabe down, and you get it, Santana Ortiz. I've got my eye on you. You sons of guns. Kayfabe down. Matt Cardona and Cody were then tagging to take on Long John Pirate Silver and Alex Ryan Reynolds. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely loved this for the simplest of reasons. Up. Now, was this just a standard tag team match? Yes, it was, but you've got to bring context into this and let it wash over you like you're having a lovely shower. Apparently, I shower like I'm about to involve myself in a limbo game. But if you know that Cody and Matt Cardona, also known as Zack Ryder, are truly good friends outside of the ring. So how nice, hashtag nice, is it to see them in the squared circle where one of the dudes actually owns the flipping promotion? That lights my fires, and it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. They're also both dudes that never really had a fair shake at the stick in WWE, so hopefully now that can all change around. And yeah, Cody did his Ric Flair thing where he sold to try and get people over because he gets it. And when Matt Cardona was in there, he ran wild, he hit the Rough Rider, now known as the Radio Silence, and he got a pinfall. And all of this was just nice. Cardona really cleaned house as well when he was in there. I don't mean he got a broom and went home and started cleaning up his floors. I meant he looked great. And afterwards, the two were just so happy. I was happy. And wouldn't you believe it? I like being happy. We also found out what the deal was going to be next week when it came to the TNT title challenge, because Scorpio Sky encountered Cody in the entrance tunnel and he just tapped the belt, which of course is wrestling speak for I want a shot at it. Because Cody smiled, that meant he accepted. And following on from that, never forget to, if you do start a feud with someone, you do not talk to them for 7 days and you wait until the next show before you address all of your issues. If you are chasing someone away from ringside and they go backstage, a magical barrier will appear which will stop you from going that way, so you just walk back to the ring. And if you are a Spanish announcer, you are 100% screwed even before the television show or pay-per-view has begun. Then finally, and you're damn right, the best friends addressed this terrible situation with Santana, Ortiz, and Sue. They were so livid here about what had happened to poor Sue's car. They said not only were they going to beat these guys' asses, but when they were done, they would get Sue on speakerphone so they could apologize, not really face to face, but at least voice to voice. I mean, this was the equivalent of your mate spilling a drink in your parents' car and you being like, man, you better tell them it was you, because I ain't telling them it was me, because it was not. And some people have said this was really silly. You are 100% incorrect. This is the most relatable story of 2020. I'm a man, as I've already said, in his 30s, and if I borrowed my mum's car and somebody wrecked it, I would be so worried about telling her I would flip out as well. We can all relate to that, so it makes all the sense in the world. It was then time for the entertainment hour on Dynamite. It's it up. That's right, it was the big debate between Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy, and while I do take some people's points that why are we doing a presidential thing when MJF is literally doing a presidential character, well, who gives two hoots? I don't care, this was great. Eric Bischoff was revealed as the guest moderator, which will blow your brain if you were a WCW fan. It was the first time he'd been on TNT television for 20 or so years. Look, I've got no problem with this, as long as it's a one and done. You don't want to walk into World Championship Wrestling territory too much, but he did his job here very well, and he had some questions for both guys. The first was that he wanted to know why these two hated each other so much, and Chris Jericho lost his mind so early and to such a degree that if you did actually have to vote for one of these guys afterwards, you would not vote for the champion, because you'd be making notes going, this guy absolutely bonkers. But he doesn't think that Cassidy cares about anything, which is why he hates him as much as he does. I mean, look at this right now. Jericho's here wearing a $10,000 suit, and my word, does he spend a lot of money on clothes, whereas Cassidy is out here in his stupid denim jacket, he's out here in his ring gear, he couldn't have cared less. Now obviously Orange didn't say anything to this because that's his gimmick, and this carried on for a couple of questions until from nowhere Eric Bischoff said to the man that wears sunglasses and is named after a fruit, what do you think about rising sea levels in the United States of America? Once again, Jericho couldn't handle any of this because he didn't see how it related at all, but amazingly, Orange then grabbed the microphone and moved it toward his mouth, and he was finally gonna talk. As it turned out, Cassidy knows all about this subject, like Will Ferrell when he was in that movie Old School, and he came across like a very intelligent and a very succinct guy. And yes, once again, Chris Jericho reacted to all of this like he was about to die. The best bit of all of this, though, is when the tables were turned and Cassidy from nowhere just lit up and started to run down Jericho, because he was like, Chris, I get it, I understand. You scheduled a debate because you know I'm the guy that doesn't talk and you want to humiliate me. Well, humiliate me no more. The only thing that's going to happen now is that when they do meet in a week, the guy who puts his hands in his pockets is going to beat a multiple world champion. And this was such a good payoff, because I guess we've been waiting for ages for Orange Cassidy to speak, And when he did, he didn't shout, he didn't get overly mad, he just spoke with a purpose, he spoke to the point, and more importantly, I believed every single word he said, and I think that he should beat Chris Jericho next week. I mean it. Before all of this, Eric Bischoff also had said that Orange Cassidy had won the debate, to which Chris Jericho responded, well, you've hated me for 22 years anyway, and without skipping a beat, Bischoff said, well, it's been 24, and don't worry, I already know. And it all ended when Jericho just decided that he was going to beat up Orange Cassidy, but he did it via Jake Hager, who was at ringside. He lumped him one, Jericho gave him the Judas effect, and if this was to build to a match next week, which it is, that I'm massively excited about, well, you can tick every single box. With All Elite Wrestling, you succeeded. And just to reiterate what I just said, Orange Cassidy should win. I will die on that hill, and I'll call it Simon's Big Hill. The Britt Baker Big Swole story continued next, and look, I really dig it. And you remember what happened last week? The dentist told us, look, I will take on Big Swole at All Out, only if she beats somebody next week of my choosing. And of course, it was always going to be Reba, her right-hand woman. You could see it coming a mile away, but it was the right thing to do because it's actually quite funny. Swole beat her in around about a minute, which was always the way to go because while Reba is actually kind of decent, we're focusing on Big right now. But what I don't understand is why this was so quick, but also why our AEW Women's Champion doesn't have any kind of a feud at all and hasn't really had a feud now for around about 3 weeks. And we should have one. That's just my feelings. That's my gut reaction. That's why AEW can't do this. Right now they have around about 700 different feuds going on at the same time that are all badass. We'll just chop a few minutes off this and chop a few minutes off that and ensure you're doing it for Sheeta too. Like, you wouldn't expect Jon Moxley not to be involved in a narrative. And that's how I feel about this. So it's a minor one, but it's a down. We then finish with our world title match between Jon Moxley and Darby Allin, and what a flipping good brawl this was. What's that? You want to give it a down? What are you Ignore this piece of moron. It's getting up. Darby Allin came to the ring wearing a Jon Moxley mask, which was both very weird and very uncomfortable. Kind of shuffled around in my chair. And when he was eye to eye with the champ, Darby just slapped him right in the face, and Moxley responded by punching him so hard in the skull, I actually think Darby Allin may have been dead for around about 8 seconds. This also got so out of hand that on numerous occasions Moxley had to catch Darby Allin in a specific way, and I'm 99% sure if he hadn't, Allin would have just exploded into 1,000 pieces. I mean, he was given everything he had. And as I said last week too, I could feel it. I could feel it in my bones. Of course MJF got involved here. And I know, again, I get it. Stevie Wonder could have seen this coming a mile away. It still makes me feel like a proud pup. Because after Wardlow had distracted the ref, Maxwell hit Jon Moxley with the AEW title, and even Darby Allin, who had been knocked out, came too. He was like, what the hell is going on? Well, I'm going to take advantage of this. And he climbed to the top rope, and he hit the coffin drop, and he is your brand new AEW World Champion. It's not something I can say, because Jon Moxley kicked out. He then decided to go for it again, and there was this badass bit where Jon just caught him and reversed it into a sleeper, but because no way was Darby Allin going to be going down like that, Moxley hit him with the Gotch pile driver. And I'm going to lie, that move is so devastating, it should always be the finish. It should always be the 1, 2, 3. Once again, Darby Allin, the crazy mother, kicked out. It did mean that Moxley had to hit him with the paradigm shift, which did indeed get the victory, but afterwards, he hugged Darby Allin like he was his dad, and he just wanted to let you know how proud he was. He knew what he had to do, he didn't want to do it, but he did. He then got a gun out and shot him in the head like he was a wounded horse, and once again that last bit didn't happen. We cut to MJF in the back, who was super mad and super pissed off because his plan hadn't worked, and I think this served everything. Like, I really do. Jon Moxley is a great champion. Darby Allin did his damnedest but couldn't get there. Maxwell, his plan sucked, so he's annoyed. But more importantly, so many people want the AEW title, including Brian Cage. He was interested. It makes the thing feel more important than oxygen. And I know I get the criticism. Some people are like, well, Darby Allin looks rubbish now because he wasn't able to win the belt even though Maxwell, Jacob Friedman got involved and he's lost another Mojo Good. He will win his big match soon. He's a star in the making. He comes out smelling like $1 million. As far as I'm concerned, not sure I'd smell $1 million. Smelling of roses. He comes out smelling of roses. It's perfect as far as I'm concerned. What they were trying to do, they got over perfectly. That's right, I said it. And that brings us to the end of another AEW Dynamite, and this was one of my favorite episodes for weeks, for all the reasons I just said. I'm not going to go into it again. I enjoy shows that are layered, and this one was more layered than a damn cake. It's getting it up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about AEW Dynamite last night. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here. on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture, and remember, Friday, August 7th at 2 p.m. BST, it is Retro Ups and Downs number 2 for ECW One Night Stand 2005. Please support it, because otherwise it will go away. See you then.